It was a mystery that played out on the minds of Cork people for nearly a decade and certainly remained at the forefront for Garda investigators who had been trying to piece together evidence. What happened to Tina Satchwell, the popular, bright, bubbly animal lover who seemed to vanish into thin air on Monday, the 20th of March 2017? Today our case brings us to the seaside town of Youghal in County Cork. It is located in the estuary of the River Blackwater at the edge of the steep riverbank. The town has a long and narrow layout and is a historic walled town on the coastline of East Cork. Close to a number of beaches, it has been a tourist destination since the mid-19th century. There are a number of historic buildings and monuments and is among a small number of towns designated as Irish Heritage Ports by the Irish Tourist Boards. Tina Satchwell was born on the 30th of November 1972 in Cork. She grew up in St Bernard's Place in Fermoy, where she was raised by her grandparents. She was the youngest of 4 girls and also had 3 brothers. Known as a kind and bubbly young woman with a love for fashion and animals, who was very close to her family. When Tina was 16, she moved to the UK to spend some time with her mother and sister Teresa in Leicester in the East Midlands region. In March 1989, she met 21-year-old local lad Richard Satchwell, whose brother lived just a few doors down from the mother's house. Not long after they first met, they began dating. According to Richard, it was love at first sight, and in June 1989, Richard and Tina came over to Ireland and they stayed together for a period of time before he proposed to her at Mount Pleasant, overlooking Youghal Bay, where they would eventually settle. The couple married in Oldham on Tina's 20th birthday in 1991. None of Richard's family attended the wedding, which he explained was a result of his family not approving of the marriage. Quote, "Basically, my family are anti-Irish. When I was brought up in school, all we heard about Ireland was the IRA. I was given an ultimatum when I met Tina. I chose Tina. I never spoke to my mother again before she died." The decision was made then to move home to Cork and buy a house in Fermoy, where Richard would work as a lorry driver. The marriage was not without its strain, though. The couple spent most of their married life in Tina's hometown of Fermoy, but in 2002 Richard spent a brief period back in the UK to find work after facing some employment troubles. After a number of months, he returned to live with Tina, who had stayed in Fermoy. About a year later, Richard was in more trouble and was convicted of social welfare fraud. Basically, he was claiming social welfare and working on the side. He would spend a month in prison for his wrongdoing. Tina and Richard got back together upon his release and he worked various jobs but had no real steady job. Tina, on the other hand, loved a bargain and was very keen on charity shops. She had a real talent for spotting a good deal, but would make use of this talent by travelling to different car boot sales around the county, selling on her bargains for a profit. It would be said later that Tina may have been a bit of a hoarder, but a very organised one. She had 3 full rooms of neatly packed clothes, most with their labels and tags still attached, folded and arranged on a shelf. You see, Richard had converted a number of attic rooms into dressing rooms for Tina, which doubled as a stockroom. In 2016, Tina and Richard sold their house in Fermoy and moved to Youghal. This was a dream come true for Tina as she loved the seaside. The couple did not have any children, with Tina lavishing her attention on her parrot Pearl and dogs Ruby and Heidi instead. She was frequently seen walking in Youghal, but poor Tina would lose her pet parrot and this devastated her, but she would go on to get another one, who she named Valentine. From the outside, they seemed a very normal couple who enjoyed the outdoors and taking their dogs for walks along the beach. While Richard was away, Tina was happy enough to stay with her beloved pets, go out with friends and would regularly visit her family in Fermoy. From here on in, some of these accounts are taken from Richard's various interviews he did with the media, which he did many of when Tina went missing first. Over the years, these interviews would cease. How true everything he said still remains to be seen. 18 months after the pair moved to Youghal, Tina mysteriously disappeared without a trace. On the Sunday, the 19th of March 2017, Tina and Richard went to a car boot sale. Richard said that when they arrived home, he made Tina a cup of tea and emptied the car of the things they did not sell that day. Every Sunday they would get a takeaway at the local Apache pizza restaurant. They had a special on that day where you'd get 2 large pizzas, chips, known as fries to most of you, and a dip. They ate the one pizza and chips and would have the other pizza the following day. He said everything was normal and Tina seemed to be in good sorts. The following morning they both woke up as normal and Richard made tea and toast for himself and Tina. Tina asked Richard to go to Aldi in Dungarvan, which is around 30 minutes away from Youghal, to get some fish and dog food. Richard, obliging Tina, left the house at around 10 a.m. to drive to Dungarvan. Before Richard left, Tina mentioned to him that she planned on going to Fermoy to see her family. Not certain if she meant that day or in the following days. Now Tina did drive but only had a provisional licence, and they only had one car, so if she was to go anywhere Richard would have to go with her, as provisional licence only covered you to drive with a fully licensed person, or she'd have to take the bus. Richard claimed he was not working at this time and was once more on social welfare. When he returned to the house at around 12 p.m, after doing the shopping, he found the house empty, except for the parrot and the 2 dogs, and Tina's house keys were on the floor. There was no sign of Tina. Richard's original thoughts was that she had gone to get away, to have a break, to get her head straight, because she had been very upset in recent months due to conflict within her family. This was on the Monday, and by the time Friday came around and Richard having an appointment with his doctor, he realised that no one had seen Tina in nearly 4 days. It was then that he contacted the Gardaí and reported her missing. He admitted in later interviews that he was mistaken in leaving it so long to report her missing. From the 25th to the 30th of March, after Tina's disappearance was reported, Gardaí carried out a full forensic examination of the house that both Tina and Richard lived in, and nothing was found. Richard said he was initially taken aback by how he was treated. He stated that he handed over a set of keys to the house to Gardaí, and they were free to come and go as they wished. He would later in media interviews describe one occasion when he was requested to attend an interview with detectives, but was unaware that there was a Gardaí search going on at his home at the same time. He said, quote, "It was very upsetting. I felt it was unfair, but then as your brain starts clearing a small bit, you understand the Gardaí got this routine that they go through. They also examined Tina's mobile phone records and bank accounts for activity, but nothing was found again." While Richard states that Tina was very independent and a free spirit, he also stated that her mobile phone was in his name and he paid the bill, so therefore had access to her incoming and outgoing calls. He was in control of all the finances within the household. Richard would later claim that €26,000 of savings and 2 suitcases had gone missing from the property. When he was confronted by Gardaí that no such deposits were made into any bank account belonging to either him or Tina, he revealed that the savings earned from car boot sales, as well as Tina selling her fashion accessories, were held in the house in cash. He also claimed that some of the €26,000 was from the proceeds of the house they sold in Fermoy, saying that the deposit was paid through the auctioneer in cash, which to me is totally illegal and unlikely. He also said that the 2 suitcases had gone missing at the same time Tina had, but couldn't confirm what Tina had taken. In July of that same year, months after Tina went missing, 2 suitcases happened to be found by Richard at the recycling bins outside Tesco shopping centre in Youghal. Both cases were empty. He called the Gardaí straight away and they soon determined that the suitcases did not belong to Tina. Tina did not have a passport because she hated flying, but Richard stated that she'd take the ferry to the UK. Irish and British citizens do not strictly require a passport to travel between the UK and Ireland, but some form of photo ID is however required. Some airlines and sea carriers only accept passports as valid identification. Tina's other forms of ID were found in the house along with her keys. Richard, over the coming months and years, would divulge certain details without really saying anything to help find Tina. For example, he said she told him in 2012 that, quote, "If I ever decide to leave you and you come after me, I'll ring the Gardaí." He admitted that this piece of information didn't paint him in a very favourable light, but says, quote, "20 minutes later she will be back in my arms, cuddling. She knows what I feel for her. She knows I find it difficult to be without her." He also said during an interview not long after Tina disappeared that, quote, "We celebrated our 25th anniversary just before Christmas in 2016 and everything was good. But people who looked at photographs of that Christmas day, who know her, said you can see the upset in her eyes. When you are living so close to it, you don't see everything that's going on," he adds. Richard also said if his wife needed some space, "I admit I'd be reluctant to give it to her. You know, I'd have to go after her. This, to me, is the complete opposite to what his actions were. Why then wait 4 days to report her missing?" He also said she might have wanted some space, as there was a number of things going on in the family and it got on top of her. Now, I have researched over what this might be, and I only came up with one article where it explains why there might have been upset in the family over the couple of years prior to Tina disappearing. But I won't go into it as I don't deem it as appropriate, and it doesn't add or take away anything from Tina's story. The main thing is it did not break the bond she had with her family, and they remained very close up to the time she disappeared. By June 2017, with still no sign of Tina, Richard, alongside Tina's aunt Margaret, appeared on the TV show Crime Call to make an appeal to the public for help in tracing Tina. Richard stated that he would be willing to take a lie detector test during another interview on the Neil Penderville radio show on Red FM. He later declined to take the test in the same interview, as he said he was too tired and stressed, and an accurate result would not be determined. In the same interview, Richard revealed that he had been hit by his wife, but then backtracked by saying she had a flash temper and he would hold her tight until she calmed down.
On CRY-FM that she did hit you in the past, that there were fights and that there were arguments. I'm not saying that she was an abusive partner.
Tina was one of these. No, she's a great woman. I have not got a bad word to say about her.
But then you said that, but then you said that she beat you.
But she could have a flash temper. She could be there like, I'd just hit you and then she'd be crying, apologising. Yeah. That's all it was. Yeah. There was no intent.
Do you ever hit back though?
Never.
Yeah.
Never. At her worst times, the most I've ever done is holding my arms tight until she's gone down.
You love the bones off her, things what you said.
She's my life.
In January 2018, RTE, which is our national TV station, aired a primetime special programme on Tina's disappearance, featuring her husband Richard, Tina's cousin Sarah and Gardaí involved in the case. Richard also appeared on the Ray D'Arcy Show, another TV show here in Ireland, and finally Morning Ireland. So our Richard was not exactly camera shy or adverse to giving interviews. By January 2018, Tina's family were making it quite clear that they had no contact with her since the day she disappeared, back on the 20th of March 2017, and they did not accept her husband's theory that she went to the UK after not being found in Fermoy, which Richard kept insisting on over the year since she went missing. He felt that she was helped by a third party to get into the UK. All ports and flights were checked by Gardaí, even contacting the PSNI in Northern Ireland and Interpol, checking CCTV cameras locally and nationally to see if Tina could be found. The Gardaí concluded through their search that she never left Ireland. Another interview Richard gave, he told TV3's Ireland AM that Tina had been battling undiagnosed depression when she disappeared, but that they had a long-running understanding that she would never take medication for it, that one of Tina's biggest fears was ending up on antidepressants. That was one thing she made me promise I would never make her have. That was kind of from day one, he said. Her best friend told Richard on the Monday, who he said she met daily, that she did know Tina was depressed and upset. But again, these are Richard's words in this interview. My question is, what Monday? The Monday she disappeared or a Monday before he did the interview? He would later claim in further interviews that he did not know this friend's number and it wasn't in the phone list of Tina's phone, and the only time he met this friend was when he dropped Tina off to meet up with her. So if Tina didn't have her number, how did she arrange to meet her every day? Richard would say it was a given on what time and place they would meet up, which to me is a bit strange. But yet suddenly Richard has contact with this friend to say Tina was upset and depressed. And if her and Tina met up every single day, why did she not contact Richard to know where she was? In March 2018, An Garda Síochána carried out a search in Mitchell's Wood near Castlemartin in County Cork. It is around 20 minutes from Cork City. This came about due to a tip-off they received from a member of the public. They said they saw a man and a blonde woman entering the woods on the night Tina disappeared, and he re-emerged on his own without the blonde woman. The Gardaí put into place a no-fly zone. Up to 60 officers and a search team descended into the woods, along with cadaver dogs. They searched 40 acres over 12 days. Streams and rivers adjacent to the woodland were also searched, but nothing was found. Lots of searches of Youghal was also carried out over the years, with the same results. Nothing, no sign of Tina. From 2018 onwards, Richard practically shunned the media, giving no further interviews and getting on with his life without Tina. It was clear there was more going on under the surface of his and Tina's relationship that Richard did not fully go into, but preferred to hint towards and let us make up our own minds. Everything odd about this case was down to, according to Richard, quote, Tina wanting it that way. As the years passed by, it being 6 years now, it became less credible that Tina would voluntarily disappear. What is certain, Tina, 45, did not bring her 2 dogs for their morning walk that Monday, as she would have been spotted by locals. She did not take her ID nor her house keys. While couples can tend to claim a perfect relationship and that they know everything about each other, this is nothing further from the truth. There are many private elements to the truth of what happened to Tina and her relationship with Richard that only the Gardaí know. Up until October 2023, the Gardaí in Middleton, County Cork had been investigating the disappearance of Tina. But on the 10th of October there would be a huge development in the case, and it would be upgraded to a full-blown murder inquiry due to new information coming to light. After 400 lines of inquiry, watching hundreds of hours of CCTV and taking witness statements from 170 people, finally a new piece of information would come in that would lead Gardaí back to the house where it all began, 6 years previously, when Tina first disappeared and where Richard still lived. A man in his 50s was arrested in Youghal and taken to Cove Garda Station, where he was held under Section 4 of the Criminal Justice Act 1984, which allows Gardaí to detain suspects for up to 24 hours before they have to be charged or released without charge. Within minutes of his arrest, dozens of Gardaí, forensic experts and construction workers descended on Grattan Street in Youghal in County Cork, the family home of Tina and Richard Satchwell. Tina's former home was cordoned off as an extensive search of the property got underway. Gardaí based their operation on new evidence that came to light about renovations believed to have taken place at the property at the time of Tina's disappearance. Along with this, the house next door was going up for sale, and an engineer had come to inspect the property and noticed something untoward in the shared drains of this house and Tina and Richard's house. It was also said there were renovations going on next door and the construction workers had found something in the shared drains. And finally, it was said that utility workers were trying to clear a blocked drain in the area and brought suspicious material to the attention of the Gardaí. Which is true, I'm unsure. What they may have found in the drains has not been released to the media. As work progressed on the external area of the property, the man being questioned was released without charge. but within 24 hours he would be rearrested after a cadaver dog was brought into the house and signalled to an area under the stairwell, which was walled in and had a concrete floor under the floorboards. Here the Garda technical expert lifted the floorboards and used jackhammers to dig through the floor to where they would find mummified remains wrapped in a plastic sheet in an alcove area behind a wall under the stairwell in the hallway. The remains were removed to Cork University Hospital for detailed analysis, forensic tests, including DNA sampling, that took place in Dublin. These tests would soon clarify what everyone feared, that indeed the body found under the stairwell was poor Tina. Upon the discovery of the body, Richard was arrested across the road from the Water Rally Hotel at the bus stop, which is around 200 yards from Youghal Garda Station. He was held again under Section 4 of the Criminal Justice Act. After 2 hours of questioning and an 8-hour sleep break, Gardaí confirmed that Richard Satchwell, arrested twice, was charged with his wife's murder. He appeared before special sitting at Cashel District Court on the morning of Saturday, the 14th of October. Dressed in a black t-shirt and grey tracksuit bottoms, he kept his head down as he walked into the courthouse in front of a large crowd of media.
Just make way there, lads, at the entrance, please. You'll all get your opportunity.
Satchwell was silent throughout the short proceedings as Tina's relatives also attended the hearing. After Satchwell was officially charged and put on remand, he did not plea. He would be refused bail as he was seen as a flight risk. Giving evidence of arrest, charge and caution, Detective Garda David Keller of Cove Garda Station said Satchwell responded to charge and caution saying, quote, "Guilty or not guilty, guilty." Satchwell has been remanded in custody and is understood to be under strict observation while in isolation at Limerick Prison. He is kept on the prison's E-landing, a small corridor housing just 2 other prisoners. A trial date was set for the 28th of April 2025 at the Central Criminal Court in Dublin, and it is said to last 6 weeks. Satchwell was also granted free legal aid. Heartbreaking vigils were held in Fermoy, Tina's hometown, and in Youghal. Hundreds attended both as mourners heard how Tina was an angel who will always be in the hearts of her family. On the 25th of October 2023, the town of Fermoy lined the streets for the funeral as her family and friends and neighbours paid their final respects. The funeral passed Tina's childhood home and onto the island crematorium, Ringaskiddy, for a private service for family and close friends. After Tina's body was found, her beloved remaining dog was taken to the Cork Dog Home, where they fed and looked after it until a decision could be made about the dog. There was an offer to rehome the parrot Valentine almost immediately, and she has gone to a good home. The good news is that Tina's family in Fermoy decided they would take her beloved remaining dog, as the other one had passed away over the previous years. They also took in a puppy that was not originally Tina's dog, but had lived with the remaining dog for 10 months and are great friends, so it would have been cruel to separate them, the family said. Obviously, because the trial has not yet happened, the details of how Tina died have not yet been released, and we are not of the full understanding of why she died. Tina and Richard were married for over 25 years, and from the outside it would seem a relatively successful marriage. But we don't know the ins and outs of their relationship and the psychology of Tina and Richard as individuals and as a couple. We will get some answers in the trial. Unfortunately, poor Tina, like all victims, will be dehumanised, and her accused will get priority. Tina was a larger-than-life character, from her personality, her beauty, her fashion sense and the love she had for her animals. She will not be forgotten by her family and friends and the people of Cork. Let's hope Tina and the people that knew her get the justice she deserves. But I will add, everyone is innocent until proven guilty. Just to finish off, as it comes closer to the trial, I will either turn off the comments or make this video private until after the trial, to make sure that it does not affect the outcome. I did this for Aisling Murphy when it was requested to do so by a family member, so I hope you understand. I will also post the outcome of the trial on my community tab. Rest in peace, Tina.